Victoria Morrison fired me through a Slack message while I was standing ankle-deep in mud at a construction site in Manila, watching a typhoon tear through the Philippines. The notification popped up on my phone at 6:47 a.m. local time, right as I was trying to figure out why our $720 million dam project was showing stress fractures that shouldn't exist. My name is Marcus Sullivan. I'm 58 years old, spent 22 years in the Army Corps of Engineers, most of it figuring out how to keep heavy equipment running in places where everything wants to break down. After I got out, I did 18 years with Morrison Heavy Industries, working on infrastructure projects from here to Southeast Asia. I thought I knew what I was doing until a 29-year-old Stanford MBA decided my job could be optimized. Let me tell you what Victoria Morrison looked like when she walked into our Seattle office for the first time. Designer heels clicking on concrete floors, MacBook Pro tucked under one arm, talking on her phone about disrupting traditional engineering workflows. She'd married Jason Morrison 6 months earlier. Jason's the boss's son, nice enough guy but about as sharp as a bowling ball. George Morrison, the company founder, created a chief operating officer position for her right after the honeymoon. The title hadn't existed before she showed up with her algorithms and efficiency metrics. Victoria's approach to heavy equipment was digital-first, AI-driven, and absolutely certain that 40 years of field experience could be replaced by better software. She looked at our international projects through spreadsheets, not mud and hydraulic fluid. To her, flying someone to the Philippines to personally inspect equipment was expensive waste, a relic of old-school thinking that served ceremony more than substance. She mentioned her Wharton MBA about 4 times in our first meeting. Then she started asking questions about our Pacific operations. She wanted metrics on relationship ROI, quantifiable outcomes from face-to-face meetings, data that could justify the travel expenses. I tried to explain that some problems don't show up in sensor data, that a bearing about to fail makes a sound you feel in your chest before any computer picks it up, that when you're building a dam in typhoon season, you need someone on site who knows the difference between acceptable settling and catastrophic structural failure. She nodded politely and made notes on her tablet. I could see her mental calculation happening right there across the conference table. 58 years old, expensive travel budget, relationships that couldn't be easily transferred or systematized. In her framework, I represented legacy infrastructure that needed upgrading. 6 weeks before she sent that Slack message, Victoria killed the international travel budget. Every department effective immediately. She sent a company-wide memo about optimizing resource allocation and leveraging digital communication platforms to enhance stakeholder engagement across geographic boundaries. 3 pages of consultant language that basically said, no more flying people places to talk to other people. I filed a written objection through proper channels. It went to our general counsel, Paul Anderson, then to Victoria's desk. Paul had flagged the potential contract implications, specifically Section 7 of our master partnership agreements that required designated on-site technical authority for primary communications. Victoria dismissed both concerns in her response memo. She called it legacy process friction. Here's what that Slack message said, word for word. Marcus minus effective immediately. Your position is being restructured under our new remote monitoring protocols. All international oversight functions will be handled through centralized digital platforms. Report to HR Monday for transition procedures, sent while I was literally standing next to equipment worth $200 million in the middle of a natural disaster 8,000 miles from home. I need to tell you about the project because that's what she was gambling with. The Kagayan Dam, 40 kilometers north of Manila. Philippine government contract built to Army Corps specifications because they wanted it done right. When typhoons hit, this thing needs to hold back enough water to flood half of Luzon if it fails. General Antonio Rodriguez, Philippine Army Engineering Corps, insisted on having an American technical liaison on site during construction. Not a consultant. Not a video call. A guy who could crawl inside the machinery when something went wrong. That would be me. General Rodriguez and I go back 15 years. Met him when his unit was training with the Corps in Louisiana, learning how to repair bridges under fire. He's old-school military, measures competence by how you handle pressure, evaluates partnerships by whether you show up when things get dangerous. You don't email General Rodriguez, you fly to Manila, you sit across from him in his office overlooking Manila Bay. You shake his hand and look him in the eye when you promise something. You learn to pronounce his name correctly, 4 syllables, emphasis on the second, because he notices the difference and he remembers. Victoria never met General Rodriguez, Never set foot in the Philippines. Never read the contract clause that required designated on-site technical authority for all critical systems integration. That's lawyer talk for Marcus Sullivan needs to be there or the deal is off. The morning she fired me, I'd been in Manila for 3 days. Category 2 typhoon. Winds pushing 110 miles per hour. Rain coming down like someone opened a fire hose in the sky. Our construction crew was buttoned up in the main facility, waiting it out. But the automated monitoring systems were throwing alerts faster than I could read them. Hydraulic pressure dropping in the spillway controls. Temperature spikes in the primary turbine housing. Vibration readings on the main support structure that made my stomach tighten. I closed my phone, looked at the rain hammering the corrugated metal roof of the equipment shed, called my buddy Tank Williams, former Corps veteran who ended up in the inspection business after his discharge. He'd been tracking the same equipment readings from our Seattle office, watching the numbers that Victoria's algorithms said were acceptable. Marcus, you seeing what I'm seeing on the turbine housing? Yeah, temperature's climbing, but the automated systems say everything's normal. Automated systems don't know what we know, Tank said. That bearing housing was installed 2 degrees off spec. I flagged it 3 months ago. Victoria's efficiency review classified it as acceptable variance. 2 degrees. In heavy equipment, 2 degrees off spec is the difference between 20 years of service and catastrophic failure during the first stress test. Which was happening right now. Courtesy of Typhoon Paolo, I hung up and called General Rodriguez. Marcus, are you safe for now? General, I need you to know that Morrison Heavy Industries just terminated my position. As of this morning, there's no American technical liaison on this project. Silence for about 10 seconds. When you've worked with military people long enough, you learn that silence usually means someone's thinking very carefully about their next words. Does the young woman understand what this means for the contract? No, sir, I don't think she does. I see. Continue your work, Marcus. I will handle the contract implications. The bearing failure happened 18 hours later. Not catastrophic yet, but loud enough to wake up half of Manila. A grinding, metal-on-metal shriek that cut through the storm like a wounded animal. The automated systems detected the problem exactly 37 minutes after I heard it starting. By then, the damage was already spreading to the secondary support systems. Without someone on site who knew how to manually override the safety protocols, the whole turbine assembly would have torn itself apart. I spent 14 hours in that equipment housing, knee-deep in hydraulic fluid, manually adjusting pressure valves while the storm raged outside. The work required crawling through spaces barely wide enough for a man, reaching into machinery that could crush you if the wrong relay tripped. Tank flew in on the first commercial flight after the typhoon passed, carrying replacement parts that Victoria's optimization algorithm said we didn't need to stock locally. We saved the project, barely, but we saved it. I need to tell you about my family because that's what Victoria was counting on when she fired me. She figured the price of walking away was too high for a man like me. She figured I was trapped by my own choices, by the financial obligations that come with being 58 years old in America. My ex-wife's name is Linda. We divorced 6 years ago when I was 52. The marriage didn't end because either of us was cruel or unfaithful. It ended because I was never there. I was in Manila. I was in Jakarta. I was on a red-eye back from a contract negotiation while Linda was making dinner for one again, watching Netflix shows I'd never see, going to bed in a house that felt more like a hotel I occasionally visited. Linda tried for years to make it work. She'd planned vacations around my travel schedule only to have emergency meetings crop up in Bangkok or urgent equipment inspections that needed face-to-face discussion in Kuala Lumpur. She'd buy tickets to shows I'd miss, make reservations at restaurants where I'd cancel last minute because General Rodriguez's schedule had shifted and protocol demanded flexibility from the American side. She lives in Portland now, works for the Port Authority, managing international shipping logistics. The irony isn't lost on either of us. She ended up in a job that requires understanding different cultures and managing complex international relationships, the same skills I'd been developing while our marriage fell apart. I pay her $1,800 a month in alimony, which is fair because she spent 14 years building a life I kept leaving for the next flight to Asia. We're on good terms now. She sends me updates about our daughter Sarah, pictures from family gatherings I miss, birthday cards that arrive exactly on time because Linda never forgets important dates. Sarah is 26 in her 3rd year at University of Washington Medical School, pediatric surgery track, which means another 4 years of residency after she graduates. Smart kid, inherited her mother's attention to detail and her father's stubbornness. Full academic scholarship for undergrad, but medical school costs what a house used to cost. I've been covering tuition and living expenses minus $60,000 a year that comes out of my checking account every semester. Sarah calls me every Sunday, usually while she's walking between the library and her apartment. We talk about her classes, her research, her boyfriend who's also in medical school and seems like a decent kid. She never asks about my work directly, but I can tell she worries about me. 26 years old and already smart enough to hear what I don't say about being alone at 58, about coming home to an empty apartment in Bellevue after 3 weeks in Southeast Asia. Then there's my mother, Rose Sullivan. She's 82, lives in assisted care in Tacoma. Sharp as a tack mentally, but her body's breaking down the way bodies do when you've been using them for 8 decades. The facility costs $4,220 a month, and Medicare covers maybe half of that. The rest comes from me, has to come from me because she's the woman who raised me alone after my father died when I was 12. She worked 2 jobs to put me through high school, celebrated when I enlisted because it meant college money through the GI Bill. Mom doesn't complain about anything, never has. When I visit on weekends, she asks about my travels, listens to stories about Manila and Jakarta like they're adventures instead of work. She's proud of what I've accomplished, tells the other residents that her son builds dams and bridges in foreign countries. She doesn't know how precarious it all is, how much of our family's financial security depends on me staying employed in a field where 58 is starting to look old. That was the financial reality Victoria was counting on when she fired me. $1,800 in alimony, $60,000 in tuition, $210 in assisted care costs, plus my own mortgage, car payment, insurance, the 1,000 small expenses that come with being an adult in America. She figured I was trapped by my own obligations, that I'd take whatever severance package Morrison offered and disappear quietly. She was wrong about what trapped me, but she was right about the numbers. They were real, and they were monthly. And they didn't care about corporate politics or who was right about bearing tolerances. I flew home 2 days later, bought my own ticket because there was nobody left to expense it to, $2,400 on my personal credit card. When I landed at SeaTac, my phone had 47 missed calls and 23 text messages. Morrison Heavy Industries was in full crisis mode. Here's what happened in Seattle while I was preventing their $720 million contract from turning into a $720 million lawsuit. Monday morning, Victoria called an emergency meeting with the board of directors. 6 members total, plus George Morrison himself. She was going to present her streamlined international operations protocol. Basically, a PowerPoint about how remote monitoring was more efficient than having expensive American engineers standing around construction sites. She'd prepared charts showing cost savings, efficiency metrics, digital communication advantages. The presentation was scheduled for 2 hours. General Rodriguez joined the meeting via video call from Manila at exactly 9 a.m. Seattle time. He appeared on the conference room screen in his dress uniform, 4 rows of ribbons on his chest, the Philippine flag behind him. This wasn't a casual business call. This was an official military communication. Victoria opened with her standard introduction. General Rodriguez, on behalf of Morrison Heavy Industries, I want to express our excitement about modernizing our partnership for the digital era. She launched into her presentation about systematic stakeholder engagement and scalable communication architectures. She talked for 8 minutes straight, used phrases like digital-first methodologies and optimized resource allocation and systematic relationship management across geographic boundaries. She never asked about the typhoon damage, never inquired about casualties or structural integrity, never mentioned my name or acknowledged the 15-year relationship that had brought the general to this meeting. At the 9-minute mark, she opened a folder and slid the contract renewal across the table toward the camera. Not toward anyone in particular, just toward the screen where General Rodriguez was watching. She slid it like she was passing the check at a restaurant, casual and efficient. In Filipino military culture, like most traditional cultures, documents have ceremony. You stand, present with both hands, acknowledge the importance of what you're carrying. This is an empty ritual. It's how you demonstrate that the relationship has value, that respect flows both ways across the table. General Rodriguez watched her slide that contract. He said 3 words in Tagalog to someone off camera. Then he looked directly into his camera and spoke the only English words he would use in the entire meeting. "Where is Marcus Sullivan?" Mr. Sullivan is no longer with the company, Victoria said. We've streamlined our communication protocols to create more direct engagement between our organizations.
I understand, General Rodriguez said.
He stood up, buttoned his uniform jacket, and reached toward his camera. The screen went black. 12 minutes. The meeting had been scheduled for 2 hours. The contract sat on the conference table untouched. Unsigned, worth exactly nothing. Paul Anderson, the general counsel, was the first to speak. Did anyone besides me read Section 7 of the Master Agreement? Victoria looked confused. What does that have to do with anything? Section 7 requires 90 days written notice for any change in designated technical liaison, plus written acknowledgement from the client's military command. You violated the contract the moment you fired Marcus. George Morrison, 72 years old and sharp enough to recognize a disaster when it was happening in real time, asked his daughter-in-law a very simple question. Victoria, did you read the contract before you restructured Marcus's position? The answer was obvious from the silence that followed. Victoria had optimized away $720 million based on a PowerPoint presentation she'd given to herself. The board meeting continued for another 20 minutes, but the important part was over. The vote to terminate Victoria was 6-0, with George abstaining because he couldn't vote against family, but he wouldn't defend what couldn't be defended. Jason Morrison, her husband, didn't even argue. He just sat there looking like a man watching his marriage fall apart in real time. I found out about all this from Bob Richardson, the former CEO who still owns 15% of the company and sits on the board. Bob's 61, old enough to remember when business was about relationships, not algorithms. He called me at home Thursday evening while I was sitting in my kitchen, looking at bank statements and trying to figure out how long my savings would last. Marcus, you available for lunch tomorrow? I've got a proposition that might interest you. Friday afternoon, I'm sitting in a downtown Seattle restaurant with Bob Richardson and a guy I'd never met before. Andrew Park, Vice President of Engineering for Rodriguez Heavy Industries. That's General Rodriguez's company. Turns out the old soldier knows more about business than I gave him credit for. He'd been running a defense contracting operation for 12 years, specializing in infrastructure projects for developing nations. Marcus, Andrew said, the general wanted me to extend an offer. Vice President of International Operations, based here in Seattle, but with regular travel to project sites. Starting salary $420,000, signing bonus $100,000. We've got projects in 6 countries that need someone who understands both the engineering and the politics. I thought about Sarah halfway through medical school, tuition bills that never stop coming. I thought about my mother, 82 years old, proud of her son who builds things that matter. I thought about 40 years of crawling around inside machinery, learning things that no computer algorithm would ever understand. When do I start? That was 8 months ago. I'm writing this from my office in Rodriguez Heavy Industries' Seattle facility, looking out at the same Boeing plant I used to see from Morrison Heavy. Sarah's going to graduate medical school debt-free next spring. My mother's care is covered for as long as she needs it. And next week, I fly to Jakarta to personally inspect equipment for a $900 million bridge project that will connect 2 Indonesian islands. The work is similar to what I did at Morrison, but the approach is completely different. General Rodriguez, who insists I call him Antonio now that we're business partners, built his company on the principle that relationships come first, technology second. We use the best monitoring equipment money can buy, but we also put experienced people on every job site. We trust algorithms to supplement human judgment, not replace it. My first project was retrofitting the Kagayan Dam with upgraded spillway controls. The same dam where Victoria's efficiency optimization almost caused a catastrophe. Tank Williams and I spent 3 weeks in Manila, working alongside Filipino engineers who'd been watching our original installation for 2 years. They'd identified 12 potential failure points that our sensors had missed. 12 places where local knowledge and experienced eyes caught problems that existed in the real world, not the digital model. We fixed every one. The dam is now rated for Category 4 typhoons, strong enough to protect Manila even if climate change brings stronger storms. The Philippine Army Corps presented me with a commendation for exceptional service to public safety and international cooperation. It's hanging on my office wall next to my Bronze Star from Iraq. Victoria's working for a tech startup in San Francisco now, something about optimizing supply chains with machine learning. I heard through the grapevine that she and Jason are divorced. Turns out that destroying the family business puts stress on a marriage. Jason's working for his father again, learning the construction business from the ground up. George Morrison decided that maybe hands-on experience has value after all. Morrison Heavy Industries never recovered from losing the Rodriguez contract. They laid off 60% of their international staff, closed 3 regional offices, and sold their heavy equipment division to a Chinese firm. Bob Richardson bought out George Morrison's stake last month and renamed the company Richardson Engineering Solutions. He's 62 now, talking about retirement, but still too stubborn to let corporate efficiency experts destroy something he helped build. I don't think about revenge much anymore. When you get to be 58, you realize that most people create their own consequences if you just get out of their way and let them work. Victoria thought she could optimize away relationships, reduce human expertise to algorithm inputs, streamline 40 years of experience into a software platform. The market corrected her assumptions faster than any personal retaliation could have. Some justice serves itself if you're patient enough to watch it happen. Sarah calls me every Sunday, still walking between the library and her apartment, but now she asks about my work directly. She's proud of what I do, understands that building infrastructure in developing countries means something beyond quarterly profit reports. Last month, she sent me a news article about the Kagayan Dam protecting Manila from flooding during Typhoon Maya. Dad, she wrote in the text, you probably saved thousands of lives. I visit my mother every Saturday. She's moved to a nicer facility now, one with better physical therapy and a garden where she can sit outside when the weather's good. She still asks about my travels, but now she has new stories to tell the other residents. Her son doesn't just build dams and bridges, he builds them in partnership with local communities, trains local engineers, creates jobs that last beyond the construction contract. The turbine housing in Manila is still running perfectly, by the way. Tank Williams and I check on it every quarter in person because some things are too important to trust to remote monitoring. General Rodriguez, Antonio Nino, always meets us for dinner when we're in town. We don't talk business much anymore. Mostly we talk about our kids and how to build things that last longer than the people who build them. That's the real job, I think. Not just making things work, but making them work for the people who come after you. Victoria never understood that. She saw efficiency where I saw responsibility. She saw optimization where I saw obligation. She looked at a 15-year relationship with a military engineer and saw legacy process friction. I looked at the same relationship and saw trust that took decades to build and could be destroyed with a single careless decision. Tank's retiring next year, planning to move to Montana and raise horses. He's 59, spent 24 years in the Corps and 16 in civilian engineering. He's earned his rest. But he's also training 2 younger engineers to take over the inspection work, passing along the knowledge that can't be learned from manuals or software. That's how expertise survives, not through optimization, but through mentorship. Rodriguez Heavy Industries is expanding. We've got contracts in 7 countries now, all based on the same principle. Send experienced people to work alongside local teams, respect cultural protocols, build relationships that survive political changes and market fluctuations. It's not the most efficient approach by Victoria's metrics, but it's the most effective approach by the metric that actually matters. Projects that work, communities that benefit, and partnerships that last. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just keep showing up, keep doing the work the right way, and let other people prove who they really are. The equipment doesn't lie. The numbers don't negotiate, and gravity doesn't care about your MBA. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who confused a degree with competence, who thought your experience was just expensive inefficiency, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, consider yourself lucky. But remember this, the people who build things that matter don't get replaced by algorithms. They get replaced by other people who understand that some problems require getting your hands dirty. Some things break when you try to optimize them. Some relationships can't survive remote management. And some jobs require showing up in person, even when it's raining and the ground is muddy and the smart money says you should be somewhere else. I'll take that job every time.